The first rays of dawn pierced through the dense canopy of the forest, illuminating the undergrowth with a warm glow. Inside a cozy den nestled at the base of a giant oak, a slumbering black bear stirred. The bear, a magnificent male named Ursa, had been asleep for months, his body sustained by the fat reserves he had accumulated during the previous autumn. As the sunlight reached him, Ursa slowly opened his eyes, blinking away the remnants of sleep. He yawned mightily, his powerful jaws stretching wide, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Rising to his feet, he stretched his limbs, his claws extending and retracting like grappling hooks. The long hibernation had left him stiff, but he could feel the familiar strength returning to his muscles. Ursa emerged from his den, his black fur glistening in the morning light. He paused at the entrance, taking a deep breath of the crisp, fresh air. The forest was alive with the sounds of birdsong and the rustling of leaves. It was a new day, and Ursa was hungry. Stepping out onto the forest floor, Ursa began his daily routine, driven by instinct and the primal need for sustenance. The wilderness awaited, promising both rewards and challenges for this solitary king of the woods. The forest, though seemingly tranquil, was a tapestry of scents and sounds, each carrying its own message. As Ursa ambled through the undergrowth, his keen nose picked up the scent of another bear. It was Luna, a female he had encountered on numerous occasions. Their meeting was not marked by aggression, but rather a casual acknowledgement of each other's presence. They circled each other, sniffing the air, their dark eyes meeting for a fleeting moment. A low growl rumbled in Ursa's chest, a sound that was more of a greeting than a threat. Luna responded with a similar sound, her own massive frame dwarfing the surrounding vegetation. For a few moments they stood there, two apex predators sharing a brief truce in the heart of the wilderness. Then, as if by unspoken agreement, they continued on their separate ways. The encounter was a testament to the complex social structure of bears, creatures often perceived as solitary and aggressive. While competition for resources did exist, there was also a level of tolerance, a silent understanding that governed their interactions within their shared domain. Despite his imposing size and strength, Ursa possessed a playful side, a remnant of his cubhood days. As he approached a sun-drenched clearing, he caught sight of two bear cubs, their playful antics echoing through the trees. They were wrestling playfully, their clumsy movements a stark contrast to the lethal grace of their mother. Ursa paused, watching the cubs with a hint of amusement. Their boundless energy was infectious, and for a moment he felt a pang of nostalgia for his own carefree days. The cubs, oblivious to his presence, continued their game of rough and tumble, their high-pitched squeals filling the air. Suddenly, as if sensing his gaze, one of the cubs looked up, its eyes widening in surprise. It nudged its sibling, and together they scrambled towards their mother, their playfulness replaced by a healthy dose of caution. Ursa watched them go, a low rumble in his chest that was more akin to a chuckle than a growl. The encounter served as a reminder that the wilderness was a place of both wonder and peril, where innocence and brutality coexisted in a delicate balance. For Ursa, it was a brief glimpse into the cycle of life, a cycle that he, as a dominant male, played a crucial role in perpetuating. The playful interlude over, Ursa's stomach rumbled, a stark reminder of his primary objective. He was a bear on a mission, driven by an insatiable hunger that could only be satiated by the bounty of the forest. His keen sense of smell, far superior to that of any human, guided him, leading him towards potential sources of sustenance. A fallen log, its decaying wood teeming with insects, provided the first morsels of the day. Ursa used his powerful claws to tear apart the log, his long tongue lapping up the ants and grubs that scurried to escape. It was a meager meal, more of an appetizer than a main course, but it helped to take the edge off his hunger. Moving on, he followed a game trail that meandered through the undergrowth. His keen eyesight, adapted for low-light conditions, scanned the surrounding forest, searching for any sign of movement that might betray the presence of prey. Squirrels chattered from the treetops, their scolding a constant background noise to the symphony of the wild. The forest, for all its beauty, was an unforgiving arena where survival was a constant struggle. Ursa, however, was a master of his domain, equipped with the skills and instincts necessary to thrive in this challenging environment. The sound of rushing water, drew Ursa towards a nearby river, its clear stream cutting through the heart of the forest. The river was a lifeline for the forest's inhabitants, providing not only water but also a rich source of food. For Ursa, it held the promise of a more substantial meal than the meager offerings of the forest floor. He approached the riverbank cautiously, his movements almost silent despite his size. Wading into the shallows, he scanned the water, his keen eyesight piercing the glare of the sun reflecting off the surface. A school of salmon, their silver scales flashing in the sunlight, swam upstream, their journey a desperate fight against the current. With astonishing speed and precision, Ursa plunged his head into the water, his jaws snapping shut around a large salmon. He emerged from the river, water cascading from his fur, the prize firmly grasped between his teeth. The salmon, still alive and struggling, was no match for the bear's crushing bite. The river had provided, offering up a bounty that would sustain Ursa for days to come. He retreated from the riverbank, his hunger momentarily satisfied, the taste of fresh salmon lingering on his tongue. The forest, for all its beauty and tranquility, held hidden dangers, predators lurking in the shadows, waiting for an opportunity to strike. As Ursa made his way through a dense thicket, he caught a whiff of a familiar scent, one that sent a jolt of adrenaline through his massive frame. It was the scent of a wolf pack, their presence a stark reminder that he was not the only apex predator in this domain. He paused, his senses on high alert, scanning the surrounding woods for any sign of movement. The wolves were cunning hunters, often working together to bring down prey much larger than themselves. While Ursa was more than capable of defending himself against a lone wolf, a pack was a different matter altogether. The sound of a twig snapping underfoot confirmed his suspicions. The wolves were close, their movements stealthy and deliberate. Ursa let out a deep growl, a sound that echoed through the trees, a clear warning to the pack that he was not to be trifled with. The growl had the desired effect, for the wolves, sensing his power and determination, chose to melt back into the undergrowth, their hunt abandoned for now. The encounter was a stark reminder that even the strongest of creatures were vulnerable in the face of a determined adversary. Ursa, his heart pounding from the adrenaline rush, continued on his way, his senses heightened, his every movement calculated. As the sun began its slow descent towards the horizon, casting long shadows across the forest floor, Ursa felt a sense of contentment settle over him. The day had been long and arduous, filled with both challenges and rewards. He had faced his rivals, secured a bountiful meal, and navigated the dangers of his domain. He sought out a secluded spot near a babbling brook, its gentle murmur a soothing balm to his weary muscles. The air was cool and crisp, carrying the scent of pine needles and damp earth. Ursa settled down on a bed of soft moss, his massive frame dwarfing the surrounding vegetation. Closing his eyes, he listened to the symphony of the forest, the gentle rustling of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, the chirping of crickets signaling the approaching night. The wilderness, for all its harsh realities, held a certain peace, a rhythm that had remained unchanged for millennia. In this moment of tranquility, Ursa was a creature at one with his surroundings, a testament to the enduring power and resilience of nature. The last rays of sunlight faded, painting the western sky in hues of orange, purple, and crimson. Darkness descended upon the forest, transforming the familiar landscape into a realm of shadows and whispers. The stars, hidden by day, emerged in all their celestial glory, twinkling like diamonds scattered across a velvet cloth. Ursa, his belly full and his body weary, drifted off to sleep, the gentle murmur of the brook lulling him into a state of deep slumber. He dreamt of boundless forests, rushing rivers teeming with fish, and the thrill of the hunt. His dreams, like his waking life, were a reflection of the wild spirit that dwelled within him. The forest, cloaked in darkness, was alive with nocturnal creatures, their eyes gleaming in the faint starlight. Owls hooted softly, their calls echoing through the trees. A fox barked in the distance, its sharp cry piercing the stillness of the night. Yet Ursa slept on, oblivious to the world around him, his massive form a dark silhouette against the starlit sky. The night was a time for rest and rejuvenation, a time for the forest to replenish itself after the day's activities. It was a time for dreams and for the promise of a new day, a day filled with the same ancient rhythms of life, death, and survival that had played out in these woods for countless generations. As the first rays of dawn pierced through the canopy, bathing the forest floor in a warm glow, Ursa stirred from his slumber. The night was over, and a new day was dawning, a day filled with the promise of adventure and the familiar challenges of life in the wild. He rose to his feet, his powerful muscles rippling beneath his thick fur, and stretched, his claws extending and retracting, ready for whatever the day might bring. Taking a deep breath of the crisp morning air, Ursa turned and disappeared into the undergrowth, his massive form quickly swallowed by the dense foliage. The forest, now bathed in the golden light of a new day, seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief, its ancient heart beating in unison with the creatures that called it home. Somewhere in the distance, a raven called, its harsh cry echoing through the trees. It was a sound that spoke of both beauty and brutality, a sound that captured the very essence of the wilderness. And Ursa, the solitary king of the woods, answered the call, his own deep growl resonating through the trees, a reminder that he was very much alive and a vital part of this wild and unforgiving world. The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long shadows that danced across the forest floor. The adventure continued. A timeless tale of survival and resilience played out against the backdrop of a wilderness that remained indifferent to the triumphs and tragedies of its inhabitants. For Ursa, and for all the creatures that shared his domain, life went on, a never-ending cycle of existence, forever intertwined with the rhythms of the natural world.